I would say the biggest misconception about propaganda is that like I'm always like on some like stay woke seriousness. I'm incredibly sarcastic, and I do crack a number of jokes. And I do like some brainless stuff sometimes. So that's probably like the biggest like misconception. Yeah, I think when you think about like sort of this, you know, the silo of like, you know, Christian artists, I guess me personally, like it's almost like it came and got me. Like if you know anything just about like LA underground, like there wasn't this other field. Like if you were a part of like just like a Good Life kind of Project Load sort of foundation world that like birthed like a Freestyle Fellowship, a Dilated People, like any of these people, like the world that birthed them, we were all at the same hip hop shops. You know what I'm saying? Even like you take somebody like Abstract Rude, you know what I mean? And like Tribe, you know, like we were like Pigeon John and LA Symphony, like all these people, they were Christians. You know what I'm saying? We just all went to the same hip hop shop. So I didn't know there was these like other rules, if you will, that existed for sort of like Christian artists. So as far as the West Coast was concerned, like we got the same coverage like everybody else got. Kind of having that same coverage, I was kind of thrown for a loop once I like went outside of the West, because like I said, like it just wasn't our experience. We had the same respect as everybody else because California was like, yo, if you're dope, you're dope. You know what I'm saying? You just tell your story, you tell it the way you tell it, you know what I'm saying? And it was just more like, yo, you need to be able to exercise all of the elements. Can you write a song? Can you write a hook? Can you kill a bar? Can you freestyle? Can you rap on beat? You got tap, you know what I'm saying? Can you battle? If you had all those in place, I don't care what God you serve, like you just kill it, you know what I'm saying? So there was a space for all of us, you know what I mean? It just wasn't like that back east or down south. So like somebody like my brother Lecrae's experience, they just had a different local scene. So they were kind of forced to like sort of create this like their own sort of like very militant, very like aimed like for the church kind of music, you know what I'm saying? So I think that was by design, they separated themselves. I just didn't have that experience. But once I became friends with those dudes, because their movement was so large, I got enveloped. And it wasn't like I wasn't a Christian, but I came from a world where there just wasn't this separate market for Christians, you know what I'm saying? So somebody told me later, like, hey, you know, so how long have you been doing Christian rap? I was like, what the hell is Christian rap? Like, I didn't know what you're talking about. I think some of it has to do with, you know, we have to take ownership of like we created that. Like we were the ones, like, and I'm gonna say we, even though I wasn't necessarily a part of the environment that birthed that sort of like separatist mentality. I wasn't a part of that, but I'm gonna take ownership of it in the sense that like we did that. We were the ones that said, this is unholy, this is holy, right? And then got mad when hip hop as a whole was like, okay, well then y'all do your own thing then. Well then create your own economy then, create your own network. Now that may have been a generation back, and then you have people like myself or like Andy or like Lecrae who like, we didn't build that infrastructure, you know what I'm saying? We just kind of somehow got enveloped into it. So we were like, well, I know me, like it was put on me, like I didn't ask to be a part of either one of these worlds. I wasn't aiming at anyone, I just wanted to make good music, you know? Like I said, I think on one hand, like we have to like blame ourselves for that because we were the ones that said we were different, you know what I'm saying? And then on the other hand, it's like you can't blame people for what they see. And there was a long time that like hip hop, like Christian hip hop was just not fresh. You know what I'm saying? Like this is a long time where it just wasn't fresh. Or the ones that were fresh, they weren't getting deals, you know what I'm saying? And when I say deals, I mean like via like what's called CCM or just Christian contemporary music has always had their own channels. They got their own festivals. They always have. So for a while, like if you was a quote unquote Christian rapper via the CCM like sort of channels or the own distribution and stuff, like you didn't really have to like concern yourself with like general market stuff because you could make a fine living being a mediocre rapper because you're not going against other rappers. You're going against like these like sort of worship bands, you know what I'm saying? And like if your message is right, then the people will like accept it. Myself, an Andy, like a Trip, a Cray, we were these like hybrids to where it's like, no, we grew up as heads. You guys were just the first people to bite. And like, bite is in like give us an opportunity to put out music, you know what I'm saying? So I think, like I said, like, you know, there's an infrastructure that has been created that says you don't necessarily need, at least to make a decent amount of money, you don't need the approval of hip hop as a whole. But then on the other side, it's almost like you asked for it, like you asked to be separated, you know what I'm saying? But hopefully like you know, and it's kind of dope seeing like those walls kind of come down and like we can just do some hip hop.
I'm not a very selfish artist. I don't completely make music just to satisfy my fans, but I don't solely make music for myself either. I found a happy medium of understanding what people want to listen to and what I want them to hear.
You don't understand the realism and the work and the effort and the struggle and the infrastructure that goes into everything. You don't understand the pain and the struggle that makes you into the person that you are. You just want to be that person.
The religious side, the spiritual side of the community, to get back violent, and not guns or fighting, but violent and forceful. Take back with some sort of force and not say, oh, God loves you, although your kid is dead.
I took over. I was just like, well, ain't nobody gonna talk about waves and the inspiration and why better than me. So I started talking. I'm like, yo, I started creating waves. Somebody on the other end of this table starts talking. So I started speaking louder. So I started creating waves. Somebody else starts talking. So I look at my manager. I look at John. I'm like,